Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, I see so many familiar names. People I know, Tech Big Squad, people consistently a part of the Tech Biz week after week. Isabella, I can see you. Mr. Rushewe, I see you too. Brian Oladokun Olamide. Welcome, everybody. Sylvester, Jethro, welcome. Gloria, you're welcome. Everyone is welcome. We're going to start in exactly 1 minute, just allowing people to get into the room and we can start. You're welcome. Normally you'd see you're on mute. Everyone is on mute and your videos are off to minimize the number of distractions. But we're going to use the chat room quite actively. So we can even already start chatting. Please indicate your name, your industry, and where you're joining from. It's always good to know your industry because it helps to tailor the message and maybe even the examples towards your industry. So type in your name, type in your location and your industry. Okay, so I think it's just perfect timing to start. It's always a pleasure to see you on a weekly basis. Welcome to TechBiz. And we do this every single week, every Thursday, 5 p.m. We're bringing you relevant conversations that support your business growth, your business thriving, or even if you are only just about to start, this is the place to come to for relevant information, knowledge, because we bring speakers who have walked the journey and who are able to share stories, frameworks, and even personal examples of how they have reached where they have reached. For our first timers, you see everyone is on mute. Please, let's keep the conversation going in the chat box. Post in your questions, post in your comments as well. And if you're having any tech challenges, please post that in as well. Every now and then, the people are there to help you, especially for people who experience audio challenges. Now, during the Q&A session, you're going to post in your questions in the chat box, but if you want to ask it verbally, feel free to raise your hand and then we'll unmute you so that you can speak. I'm Doja Ikeriche, you know that already. I'm a strategist, I'm experienced in marketing strategy, business management, growing revenue, growing profit for various businesses. And again, this is TechBiz powered by Eco Innovation Center. Now, quick discussion or quick sharing about what Eco Innovation Center is. It is really about supporting businesses by leveraging two key enablers. That's innovation and technology. And the whole drive is to solve poverty and its symptoms within the continent. As you can see on the screen, we have a number of pillars. Learning is a critical one because it's about delivering professional knowledge. And TechBiz is one of those platforms that we use to deliver such knowledge. Business acceleration, that's what we know how to do, scaling high impact business. And research and sustainability, digital product incubation, you know what those are about. Civic tech is usually a new area that people ask about. And this is galvanizing the public to use their talents to support government in delivering services to citizens. And one important pillar there is crowdsourced initiatives that actually help to deliver large-scaled, large impact initiatives to the community in general. We have one that we're running right now. If you haven't heard about it, it's Lagos Smart Meter Hackathon. So if you are within that industry, if you're a techie, go to lagossmartmeter.com. You will read about the hackathon. We're seeking solutions to delivering smart and affordable meters to residents of Lagos State. Quite a laudable project because the whole focus is actually to support or to be a part of fixing the power challenge within Lagos State. So that Eco Innovation Center, should you want to know more, send an email to info@ecoinnovationhub.com. We're still in the chat box. We have quite a wide variety of industries here. We have food, we have academia, we have advertising and marketing, also just electrical. Oh, well, that's interesting. In the electrical electronics business. So that's great. Someone is asking about if we are here every Thursday, every single Thursday. This is the 14th week, which means we've been on for quite a number of months. We've covered topics in IP, intellectual property, business planning, in incubating businesses that are inclusive, that target the bottom of the pyramid. We've talked about venture capitalists and private equity, how to get money for your business, how to manage your money. Go to ECOI Center /webinar. ECOI Center /webinar. You will see all the webinars we have had, and this presentation as well will be loaded up there. Both the video and the presentation will be loaded there, and you'll be able to access. All right, Victor, I see you are on. Excellent, you are very welcome. I'll introduce him. He's my friend, he's my brother. We've been partners for a very long time. I call partners, that's a nice way to describe you, right? Victor is passionate. If you know him, you know he's very passionate. He's visionary, he's birthed various business ventures. He's also turned various businesses around. There are a number of things you can say about Victor: innovation, consumer centricity, strategy, continuous improvement, flawless execution. Those are words that actually run in his blood. So no better person than to take this topic. Victor is an award-winning CEO of Hazen Holdings. It's a diversified business holding company, and he will share with us various stories from businesses that he has founded. Victor, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Doja, and thanks everyone. Thanks for having me on your platform.
Okay, so before I hand over the reins to you, Victor will present for about 30 minutes, after which we go into the chat box to see your questions. And like I said, you want to ask it verbally, please feel free to raise your hand. Victor, a quick game. I'll give you 2 words, you pick one. It's so that our audience can know the kind of person that you are. Administrator or entrepreneur?
Or entrepreneur.
Active or passive?
Oh, quite active, active.
Existing market or futuristic market?
I need to pick only one?
Only one, man.
Well, existing.
Existing, okay. Innovation or renovation?
Wow, innovation.
Okay, debt or own money?
Debt?
Debt, okay, so you borrow money.
Well,
okay.
Leverage.
Broad or focused?
Diversified business, broad.
Broad, very good. Turnover or profit?
Profits anytime, any day.
Cash flow or profit?
Oh, profits anytime, any day.
Okay, well said or well done?
It has to be well done.
Exactly. The real job is in the doing. Okay, yeah. Victor, over to you. Please share your story.
Okay, then. Good evening, everyone, and nice again to be here. And Doja, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure when we have to connect and talk. And it's also exciting to see I and Doja come way back about 15 years thereabouts. So I think along the journey of some of the things I've done, she's always been a very strong cheerleader by the side, telling me to write and all that. And I want to just say a big thank you officially to you, Doja. Thanks for always being there. I'll use the next 29 minutes. I want to assume I've used 1 minute out of my time to more or less share with us a few of the things we can around the topic of we ideating, creating, and innovating. And I think there's no better time to talk about a topic like this than the time in which we see that the whole of our environment, the world currently operates in a very VUCA environment, okay? And when we talk about what a VUCA environment is, next slide from, I think Coin is sharing slides, so you just follow my move to the next slide. When we look at the environment, which is a very VUCA environment we find ourselves, it's not only the global environment that we're talking about here, and we're talking about the volatility that we experience in the environment. We look at ambiguity. Nothing is straight anymore. Nothing is straightforward anymore. We're talking about the policy issues. We're talking about regulatory issues. We're talking about shifting consumer demand. We're talking about shifting consumer behavior. We're looking at the uncertainty. And of course, uncertainty on the global environment. We're talking about energy, global rules. We're seeing a lot of protectionism coming. We're seeing issues around trade. We're seeing dislocation of global economies. So it creates a lot of complexity. We're talking about racial issues and gender balance issues, okay? All these put together creates a lot of complexity around our world. So I think the world is more complex now than it can ever be. And there are so many other controversial things coming up every day, from the issue of machine learning to word to how far how far do you go with technology before you begin to, threaten people, and what are the moral lines that need to be drawn. So it's a very, very VUCA, unstable, complex environment that we play. And we will find out from, as I go through this conversation with us this evening, the importance of why we need to begin to think very much about innovation and why that is key for us to survive. When we look at the Nigerian situation, for example, the situation is even worse, because I think we have quite a number of audience from Nigeria. I know Georgia had shared with me that at times there are people coming from South Africa and Ghana, but when we look at it from the whole sub-Saharan Africa, we think we have a more interesting combination of factors that create a very VUCA environment, from issues around ease of doing business and policy changes, ports, infrastructural issues, political tensions, coup d'etats still happening in 2020 in emerging markets. We're talking about high level of insecurity. I mean, I didn't grow up knowing what was kidnapping. We used to see it on the films and all that, but there's kidnapping issues. There's, a lot of civil unrest and insurgency, okay? And the question is, despite all that, we see population growing at about 2.7%, way ahead of the economy. We see higher level of unemployment, and it's just a mixture of quite a number of things, and everybody's asking for answers. Question is, how do I thrive? How do I survive? How do I ensure that my business weathers the storm in a VUCA environment? And for me, there's no better time to innovate than now. With all the things you see around the VUCA experience and all that, this is the time to innovate. No better time to innovate than now. And someone once told me, and I mean, it just blotted out, not read it anywhere. And I said, innovation is business insurance. The insurance that you need for the future is innovation, okay? And if there's anything someone will take up, I think when I was reading one of the questions in the chat box, somebody was asking about what risk do I need to take to preserve my business? The best risk to take, how do I safeguard my business, or how do I mitigate the risk around my business? Was the question I think the person asked, how to go about risk management in the business environment. And the best is actually to innovate, and you will find out how as we move. So there's no better time for us to be having this kind of conversation than now. And however, to win in the future, okay, as I begin to define what innovation is, okay, to win in the future, we need to innovate. And why do we need to innovate in the future? It's because strategy is innovation. And I'll link a few words that we need to know, okay? And we'll talk about that more as I quickly run through this, and I think I'll enjoy more taking the questions to clarify. Strategy is innovation. Because strategy is about how I want to lead in the future. And that is the most important part about a business, the long-term continuity of the business. An entrepreneur, a business is not a one-time cash flow. It's not that I got it just once. It's not that I hit a lucky break. It's the consistency of generating cash flow in the immediate and in the future that makes you an entrepreneur or guarantees that you have a business, not a hustle, okay? So if innovation is about adapting to change, then we know that innovation and strategy prepares us for leadership in the future. And that is why it is critical for us to learn about how to innovate and how to innovate successfully to lead in the future and stay relevant in the future. And I was very deliberate picking in those words because people drop the words, oh, we need to strategize. And it's about what is the business model that you're using. Because your business model is key for your strategy that you use. And therefore, it is important that you understand how you alter business model, which is how we innovate. So what I will be talking about is altering a business model, which is innovation, and that becomes your strategy to lead in the future and guarantees future cash flow and profit, okay? And so the future is not linear. So you can't prepare with it for a single plan. When I say non-linear here, what I'm talking about is the changes you make for the future cannot be small incremental changes, okay? It can't be just, oh, my business is currently in Lagos. My innovation is I want to carry my business to Ogun State. That's linear. You know, in the world of marketing, where I and Doja have our background from, at times we introduce innovative products in the CAM category. Those are linear innovations. When the innovation I'll be talking about will be business model innovations that prepare us for bigger things. And so the innovation I'm talking about are the non-linear innovations that brings about changes in the business model that you currently have. Because it's the changes in the business model today that guarantees that you can survive and thrive in the future. What are the two skills that are needed for us to be able to survive in the future? Two things. Operational capability. The operational capability that you need is you need to even be alive today to plan for tomorrow, okay? So I know at times people, you know, you think of, oh, ideating and innovating. The question is you need to have built a particular business model that you want to innovate about, or you need to be referencing a particular business model that you want to, you know, be able to innovate about. And so operational capability deals with your efficiency gaps in the today. So for example, you run, an advertising firm like video marketing firm. We need to be assured that we're keeping our clients, we're keeping them happy. We're bringing all the marketing mix together for them to ensure they win with their consumers. We're helping them build stronger brands and connect. We need to do that very well. We need to bring in tools and strategies and ideas to make sure that they can do it very well right now so that we're in the business at all. So you need operational capability to help you perform optimally, to make sure that your current performance engine is optimal and is efficient. That is operational capability. However, a key ability that businesses need and most businesses struggle about is the dynamic capability. Dynamic capability, coming from the word dynamic, is the one that prepares you for the future and gets you ready for the opportunities that are ahead in the future. These two capabilities need to reside in every business. Your dynamic capability is the insurance to be sure that guarantees that you have a business tomorrow and that you don't get disrupted. And that is when we begin to talk about disrupting yourself before you get disrupted, okay? And I'll move on. A few examples will come, but I want to make sure that we made some significant progress before we talk about some of those examples. So when you look at your operational capabilities today, okay, like I said, there's already a dominant logic. There's a way you think in the business currently. That dominant logic is what you use to currently execute your current business. This is how we do it. This is how we go about generating cash consistently, day on day, week on week, month on month from our clients. This is our current business model, our current business logic. This is the dominant logic in the business. It is this that we need to change as we begin to look into the future to create our dynamic capability. And like I said, a successful business or entrepreneur is the one that can give cash flow for today and of course guarantee for tomorrow. Dynamic capability. To succeed as a business, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, you can not only focus on fixing your performance gap, operational capability, which most businesses have. Okay, I know how to do it today. The problem is a lot of things are happening in your VUCA environment. Are you preparing for them tomorrow? Okay, and that's how so many businesses, careers, and countries have found themselves where we are, where we're very fractured because we've not prepared for tomorrow. You must also focus on opportunity gap, and that's where dynamic capabilities come in. What are the opportunity gaps? It's from you listening to the little changes that happen in your current environment on your current business model. That's how you begin to sense. You know, you tell them looking at the weak signals. Is there a technology that is being introduced currently that is changing the way you are doing things? You call them the weak signals. Okay? Is there a particular a change, even policy change, that unlocks things? I was speaking with a few guys talking about how the fintech industry suddenly boomed. Okay, and there are so many fintech companies, and we see most of the VC funds and PE funds that came into the ecosystem actually came in to back the fintech. And, you know, somebody said, I can't confirm that even our fintech industry today is even more advanced than some developed worlds in terms of what you can do around fintech, and payments and all that we do. It was a policy change around the introduction of BBN and a couple of other things that opened up that ecosystem, and people began to plug in and innovate it. And there are quite a lot of things happening in your environment, from policy changes, from strategic directions, from global issues, climate change. Once you are looking at those weak signals, you begin to think of what are the things I can begin to put together that I can begin to form an opportunity that will help me create the future. And we call those little changes, those little signs or technological advances, your weak signals. It's those weak signals that you need to begin to test and take note of for us to be able to start the journey. Let me move a bit faster. So the framework for dynamic capability, which is how you innovate, is three things which we're talking about this evening. You need to ideate. Okay? When you ideate, you need to create, which is your invention. And after that, you need to innovate. Those are the three frameworks. Ideate, then you create it, then you innovate it. Let's take a deep dive, okay? So when we want to ideate, the basis for your ideation comes from your weak signals, okay? I can give a little example, okay? In the portfolio we have currently a B2B e-commerce business, okay? It's called Retailer in his own holdings. Retailer came from two different things that opened up an opportunity. We used to work in the BTL industry quite well, and we're doing projects where clients were struggling about accountability, transparency of spend. It's been for 10, 12 years I've been in marketing, it's always a question of how exactly are you spending and what's the transparency about spend and what is this cost? Okay, so we first and foremost began to develop tools, because such technology advances around geocoding and geomapping, and Google moved on and all that. We started working around tools that could improve our marketing engagement, create transparency, and clients could see what we were doing per day. They had visibility about how many people were on the field who was working, like SFA and all that. We were improving on that to solve a client problem, dealing with what our operational capability was, a performance issue. We wanted to improve efficiency, and accountability of our people. Along the line, we began to see, as that project opened up newer projects, and we got a project with a major client then, significant amount, because of that capability that we had done. Created a major lift for us, where they had thousands of outlets. They wanted to see what was happening in those outlets. They wanted visibility at the click of a button. They were desperate because, of course, it was a multinational. They wanted to formalize because they were already used to running, marketing and sales in a formal environment. So they're looking for a way to formalize the informal sector. Those were weak signals. We were picking it from the environment, okay? And that's how you get the idea done. And from there, when we moved from that, we saw how we could use technology. Starting from picking the weak signals, developing tools to improve our performance gaps, we saw how we could use technology to create a major disruption around the B2B and create an end game. And that's the process that will take us through. So first is you create a dump. The dump is coming from your weak signals. What's happening around? People are trying to survive. Know what works for you, where it's our strength, which is your dominant logic. If you don't have a dominant logic of how your business currently even operates, it becomes a struggle for you to even have an idea about where your strength is, what are your capabilities, and what are the things you use to win, okay? And the next thing is, as you look at what works for you and you discuss with people and you put ideas together, know the triggers of that idea, make sure there's a feedback loop. Okay, I've seen people constantly, which is great, try to build castles in the air. Not saying about building castles in the air, okay, but the thing is, be willing to have the pillars that will support the castles in the air. So build it in the air, but how will you build the pillars that will hold it in there? That's it. Okay, so you create a feedback system and leverage core tools, and some of these tools that you can use when you're ideating future castings and scenario planning, which is used by almost all organizations. Quite a number of people do them. It looks like daydreaming and all that. But what's future casting or scenario planning? Future casting is when you look at everything happening around your environment or the industry you play, and look in the next 5 to 10 years, time perspective. How do I think my industry will look like? Check the mega trends. How do we think the young people today who are the larger population, 17, 18-year-olds, What businesses do you think they want to do? How do you think they want to come to work? How do you think they want to shop? How do you think they want to access healthcare? How do you think they want to consume, or how do you think their lives want to be? I mean, there's some things we went through in our generation. They have no clue what it looks like, okay? So the question is, you need to do future casting. What will the world look like? And then if this is what the world is going to look like, you now need to walk back and say, how do I begin to prepare for that future in a long-term perspective? We're talking 5-10 years. That's future casting. So it's about casting into the future and working backwards. Same thing with when you're doing scenario planning. Plan all scenarios. You come in every year, you know, and we try to do a lot of that. Some call it business plan and all that. But scenario planning is you try to look at all the assumptions. What is likely to happen in the country? Will there be an election? Will Trump win? Will there be scarcity? Will the insurgency go up? You do all those scenario planning. You look at how technology is helping, and then you can plan, and that allows you begin to plan in your ideation process. Okay, you look at human experience, what are technical capabilities, how are people living now? Are they living 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom? You know, quite a number of things, you know, and it's all about you studying and embedding yourself in the industry you find yourself. What are the economics? Is cryptocurrency on the rise? Will something else displace cryptocurrency? You know, I talked about climate change and all that. A lot of things happen, and one of the things you can check is that gives you a lead is the mega trends. The mega trends are the things that finally affect us either way. Population growth, urbanization, technology advancement and adoption, and all those things. How does it affect us? You know, one of the things I talk about quite often is, you know, I was sharing with a friend because we also play in the renewable energy sector. And I said, it's quite interesting that developed countries where we buy vehicles from, many of them want to go carbon neutral from 2030, which is just about 10 years from now. And we do not have a single place, and quite a number of hybrids are coming up. We do not have a single electronic charging point for bikes and vehicles and all that. And suddenly, a year or two, we'll start looking for the investments to build them. Those are the weak signals that we should be seeing globally that's likely to come down for them. And, you know, and then, of course, I mean, you can move the frog framework to future casting. We can always talk about them. It's about discover, you know. And then after analysis become insight, insight become ideas, and ideas become reality. That's what we call the frog framework to future casting, okay? Which is how you have your discover, and then you design from the discovery you put together, and then you, of course, ideas now begin to create a reality. The next step is talking about create. Some people use the word create to be invention, and it's about creating a prototype, okay? A prototype prepares you for an MVP. I know what it's going to look like. A lot of people think technology is about built an app, okay? It's not about an app, and a technology itself is an enabler of a business model. It's an enabler, it's not an end in itself. And I see quite a number of people get frustrated because they think, oh, once I have a technology adoption, I introduce technology, then it's a big game changer. You need to have a business model that is working, that technology is coming to enhance or improve, you know, before you introduce that. So you need to create something. And when I say create, it doesn't mean it's a tangible product. It can even be you creating a new dominant logic, a new way in which something is being fulfilled. For example, I give an example of retailer. Retailer's intention was to reverse the value chain. You know, there are different ways in which you can create something. You can reverse a value chain by cutting out a member of value chain. You can, I mean, Kobo 360 doing logistics was a reversal of how the value chain serves. So when I say create, creation is just not build something. Creation is about how I use my idea to create a business model or create a dominant logic for how I want my business to run or how I'll create a business of the future. So create is change or disrupt a model, a new model, create a new narrative or how it should go, okay? And of course, a couple of things you've seen, ride-hailing and all those things you've seen are model, business model changes. All the things is business model changes. FinTech was seen. Their business model changes, okay? Telmets and a couple of other things. Aggregation. You've seen the farm credit and all that. We're using smallholder farmers. How do we bring the smallholder farmers together? Which are, you know, scattered. We're formalizing the smallholder farmers. That's what you see the farm credit and all the rest being able to do, and get many more people to have access to farming and accelerate that sector is a business model that is being rewarded. So you need to create that. And it's about, you know, empathize, define it, idea, prototype it. Because before you innovate, you need to have a prototype of what the model looks like. You must be able to demonstrate it. Is it a trading platform? Is it a new way of people ordering something? Is it a new way of people ordering, making a booking on anything. Those are the kind of innovations that we constantly need to talk about, okay? And we need to bring to the fore. And many of those things are the things that change the way we live and the way we do the things that we do, okay? And to quickly move before I get to the question is now the final process of innovation. After you've created a prototype, you now need to innovate it. Remember the process for dynamic capability, as I recap, and preparing you for the future, leadership in the future, is to have a new business model with a new dominant logic. And the process is ideate, and I've given us framework for ideation. And then the next thing is you need to create it, okay? After you've created it, the last part is now to innovate. And I'll simplify innovation as commercialization of your invention. How you will commercialize your invention and how you will have that strategy to allow you live in the future is innovation. So let's not get it confused. Let's not confuse ourselves by looking for very technical and very difficult definition of innovation. It's, I have an invention, commercialize it. So it's a logical follow-up to ideation and creation. And like I said, it's a business model innovation. That is what is non-linear. The linear one is much more improvement. I have 50 years CL. Can I now add, 100 CL? I'm in Lagos. I'm moving to, those are linear things. Or, I'm changing the pack size design. I'm adding one ingredient to an orange drink. No, we're talking of a total business model innovation. That's change. That's when we talk about innovation, okay? And it's key for Straya, and this is the difference from a new product introduction, like I've said, or a tech innovation and introduce a new app. That's not innovation. If you don't innovate now, it hurts in the future. It's like exercise. You prepare, and that's why I said it's an insurance for business, for your business in the future, okay, for business environment. You innovate to prepare for the future. And it's like, oh, I don't need to, I'm making money today. The question is, will you continue to make money tomorrow? Because if you don't innovate, somebody else is innovating, and the person is most likely going to disrupt your industry. And we could go back to quite a number of things around, even in quite a number of industries where we played. I remember sometime last year I was speaking in brand conference, and we're trying to look at the future of the experiential marketing sector. And I had a few other panelists on the floor. And it was like, no, it will not, it's going to be roadshow. What do you mean? And all that. And I looked at, the only one out of water with a lot of panelists taking me on. And what was I saying? I said, experiential marketing will not continue to be like this. A time was going to come where we will need to bring in AI, a couple of things and different ways in which you're going to do experiential marketing. I left that day wondering, was something wrong with me? 4 or 5 months after COVID struck, social distancing, a particular industry prostrate and flat for 6 months. I'm 100% sure that industry can't be the same anymore. Social industry has come to say, we've changed it. If you are not innovating, if you are not moving, and guess what? Before I had that, I gathered my team together and, through to them this process of casting and all that. I said, what if clients wake up today and say, we don't want to do this anymore? What is happening all over the world? We use 3-4 months to be scouting, checking. What are they doing? In the formal environment, the country will not continue to be like this. Many diasporans will return. How do they want to access their products? Our clients are involving. How do they want? And we began to internally go through that painful process. It was at the end of that process, I was at that conference and said, no, it's not going to happen. February we came, we could try, we could ride the wave because we have a new dominant logic about how we think we can engage our people and how we engage. So learn to commercialize your creation and innovate your way out of VUCA environment. Now that you have idea creation, how would your business survive? I know, and I'll try and share the Vero model as I quickly round up. I'm trying to keep to time. I think I've got 3-4 minutes more. Okay, how will your business survive in this model? And one way which you try to also innovate is ask yourself, and quite a number of people have written about it, who are my non-consumers? It's the easiest way. And we're not saying non-consumers of, like I said, it's not geographical or movements or innovation or, we want to recruit new people who have new pack sizes. And it has to be a business model that you are changing. How do people access me? How do I offer my products and services to either the existing or a new set of people? And the greatest way is to look first as a model, which I've not shared, but I think it came to my mind, and then I'll end up with Vero in 1 minute, is to say, who are my non-consumers? And what are the reasons why they are not patronizing me today? How can I make them patronize me? You go through that process of non-consumers, making them consumers, you create a new business model. Because the reason why consumers are not patronizing you today is by your business model, okay? It's because your business model today does not allow you, or your business model today creates a gap between people who like your products and people who can access your product. So you need to create a new way to say, come, gather together. Why are people not using my product? How can I make more people use my product? Why are people, for example, in fashion, why don't you have people hiring maybe bridal wears in the country for, you wear it only for one day, for crying out loud. Why is there no business model where people are, proper business model support tech where people are hiring wares for work and everything? It's a fresh business model because many people cannot afford if you're very premium, for example. Okay, so it's looking at it to say, how do I get people that are not consuming me? Whether you're in healthcare or you're in advertising or you're in whatever place you find yourself, people using products. Why are people not consuming? How can I have non-consumers? And that's how we talk about innovation. I love the viral that I'll round up now, Dodge. I've seen your smile. I love the viral video that went out of recent where somebody was talking about Gary and Granotte and was packaging it so well, and it's an innovation because there are non-consumers of Gary today. People think that it's not them. If you repackage in a different way, you can get non-consumers who are affluent and all that to begin to consume. Vero model, as I round up. Look at these 4 models and ask yourself, this new innovation, after I've thought about it, before you deploy, because commercialization of your invention or your creation, which was a product of your ideation, is what we call innovation. But before you commercialize and you start getting upset and you're frustrated, ask yourself these 4 questions using a matrix which is showing. Is there anything that is of value that gives me competitive advantage? And for it to be of value, you are bringing on consumers to the table. Is there anything that is of value in this new thing? Will people appreciate it? Will they like it? Does it make their life better? Is it a nice to have or a need to have? Will they be excited? It's about that. Is there value? Is it rare or is it commonplace? Oh, I have an innovation. And your innovation is nothing new. Someone is asking, is there a rarity about it? Is it very rare? How difficult is it for people to imitate it? Once you cannot put in those controls and you throw it out today, the next day somebody else can copy it, you cannot tell me you have an innovation. Nothing is innovative about that. You've not invested enough time. Okay? And the last part of it is that how do you structure it in such a way that you create a competitive advantage that even if people want to do it, they are not able to do exactly the same thing. And this is why if you put all this together, you find that your business model logic has changed. And you can see the mapping that we had created around it. If it's valuable, if it's not valuable, then you're already competitively disadvantaged. Okay? But let's assume it's valuable, but it's not rare. Everybody can do it. Oh, my innovation is 2-bedroom is happening, and I want to put a lounge in there. It's not difficult. Your neighbor will go behind you, build another 2-bedroom. People are not taking 3 bedrooms anymore, put a gym, and they've disrupted you. There's nothing fantastic about that. So yes, it's valuable. It makes sense. Consumers are on the go and all that. But anybody can repeat it. Competition will come in there. You've created competitive equality and parity. You've only improved your operational efficiency. When we introduce an app to begin to report and give access to clients and all that, a lot of my clients also, competitors also jumped to go and get apps from different ways. Some even took it off the shelf. It was competitive parity. Of course, we can want to lead the game, but easily the competitive edge had gone before you knew it. Question is it valuable? Is it rare? Is it difficult to create a new business model? If it is not difficult to create that new, you have it for temporarily. In another few months, people will have gone in there. Then question is, if it is rare, okay? If it is rare, how did you organize it? Did you create complication around how it's organized? Are there other collaborative or are there other things you have internally that somebody else must have internally to replicate it? And for us as a company, that's the greatest strength of ours. When we look at where we play from our advertising to running the energy business, creating market access and all that, healthcare behind, most times we enjoy an organizational strength that others, for them to match it, need to have the same competence and capability in-house. And it's always with an intention to make sure that copying us becomes more difficult. I remember when way back we had created an analytic department in the house and an advertising business, and we're going to data. Before, eco-innovation, a couple of things that came up. It became difficult for people to wake up one day and replicate the same thing that moved us from saying we're a marketing firm to a marketing and innovation firm. what were the things internally that allowed us to have innovation? We already built, working on analytics department and building apps 2-3 years before competition knew about it. We're already creating that structure for data competence and partnering with people in other places to make sure that we understood the value it was bringing. So there was an organization that we are putting in place that if somebody else wakes up and says, oh, I'm the third or fourth or fifth marketing innovation firm, you needed to have organized in such a way that your cost won't kill you. Because come to think of it, there are many things you plugged behind that brings in all those things I seen at the front end. How are you organized at the back end? It is when you put all those things together that the advantage that you move your innovation for a while can give you some competitive advantage for a while before competition and others take it. So when we look at that model, for me, it gives us a summary as I round up now. Ideate, create or invent a new business model, not a new pack size, okay, or not a new app. And then finally, innovate, making sure your innovation, which is commercialization of your invention. Commercializing it is what will make people pay for it using the Vero model. And once you're able to do that, go and do it. Thank you very much, Doja.
Thank you so much, Victor. So much said, so much knowledge, and the positive feedback, the buzz in the group chat is just out of this world. Thank you so much, Victor. You brought in, a lot to capture within the 30 minutes. For me, it's about opportunity gaps. So you talked about performance gaps, efficiency gaps, which is our today. Opportunity gaps is what will keep us into the future.
Yes.
You talked about non-consumers. How do you convert non-consumers into consumers? That is people who were not even at all working or consuming your category or your business industry. And how do you bring them into spend? Now, I won't take much time because there are already so many questions. Guys, anyone who wants to ask a question verbally, please raise your hand. Lucas is already raising his hand. So I will ask you to unmute before I go into the chat box. Lucas, please go ahead. Lucas?
Yeah, Lucas, I think you have the floor. You might need to speak up. I'm not sure we can hear you, Lucas.
Okay, well, I think he muted himself again. Stewart, over to you. Okay, in the meantime, I go quickly into the chat room. How do you convince people to patronize your new product that is valuable, rare, and organized? That's from Mohammed.
Okay. So first is the product has all the components that makes it innovative. The next thing is your ability to commercialize what you have put together is your strategy to communicate that value to your target market. Every time people struggle with patronage, every time people struggle with exchange of value, it is because value has not been communicated, okay? Which I think is beyond the scope of this. But basically, if you think you have a product, then the next step is you need to understand outside the scope of this, with Doja's permission, is what is your go-to-market strategy, which I think someone else had done. I think it's on some of these tech series. So yes,
we're having go-to-market strategy in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, fantastic! Go-to-market strategy. So your GTM is one of your most critical exercise you need to perform when you're trying to commercialize. How do I go to market? The market is where you have your non-consumers or potential consumers of your products or your services. And you need to have the step-by-step break of how you reach them. So the best way to do it, to summarize this, is called the GTM, is go-to-market strategy. And it's outside the scope of this, but Doja gracefully has said that will be up in about 2 weeks thereabout. So stay glued to Tech Series coming up every Thursday, I think 5 to 6 p.m. Doja. And I'm sure you will one day log into the go-to-market strategy where you learn how to go to market with your innovation.
You know, one of the things that had been handled in TechBiz previously was also, you know, we create things, right? We can ideate, we create, and we think it is valuable. But the question is, are you really solving a problem that the consumer or the customer needs to be solved? So it really goes into that point of, are we really understanding our consumer or our customer needs? Because it may be valuable to you, but is it valuable to your customer to pitch that in? Stewart, asking you to unmute again. Hopefully you get a hang of it. Yeah, there we go. Go for it.
Can you hear me now, ma? Good evening.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, so my question is, I'm in tech, so I want to give an example. Assuming you're building an app to solve a particular problem.
Stewart, it's very difficult to hear you. Can you speak louder, please?
I can hear you. Louder.
Okay, so I'm saying you're building an app. You're building an app to solve a particular problem. And you know, of course, that it's not going to be so hard for people to imitate that particular app, despite your value proposition. Even if you have a good business model, it can also be copied. So I'm asking, is it a good idea to hold up some of the value proposition so that when such imitators or imitations start coming up, competitions start coming up, you can start introducing more value proposition, more business models to stay in the market? Or is it okay to just pull out everything at once just because you want to dominate the market? And of course, that means that they can easily copy everything you've done and start competing very, very well within the market. So is it nice that you hold up some of the value propositions so that when, as time progresses, you can start introducing them so that you keep staying very competitive in the market? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Stewart. And I think to a large extent, I think you have a clear understanding of how to approach. The first thing I tell people is an app is not a business. An app is a business enabler. Technology itself is an enabler of a business model. Technology is not a business model. And I'm happy you started your conversation by saying that. So yes, it's also, always remember that the last part of Rio is the O part. Almost everything you develop, and I'm sure you know that even the superpowers is around technology, the 5G and all those conversations, things can be copied. There's a race for vaccine and all that. Those are fresh business things that are being done. So technology can always be copied, or your innovation rather. It's just that with all those layers, you make it more difficult. So yes, is there new upgrades, new models that you need to test the market with and see how competition will react such that it can bring something more superior? Oh yes. However, the minute you have come out and created a disruption, the rest is about performance gaps, and the rest is about the efficiency gaps you bring in there. And I'll just like to clearly say here also, which I hope I'm not throwing too many words, is the fact that execution in itself can be a strategy. And when I say execution, it's about flawless execution. Once you're already in your operational capability, a way in which you organize can also help you strongly become, execute very well. We've seen quite a number of, B2C companies come up. I'm talking the likes of e-commerce companies. Some have gone, some are still around. What did the others that stayed or are surviving, what did they do differently? I mean, there was nothing different in the business model anymore. The business model was a B2C. We could now come to Nigeria and we could shop e-commerce and all that. But there was something others were doing around how they were organized, how they were efficient, the funding, the cash flow, the upgrades, and a couple of other things and the terms. So yes, I agree with you. Part of the way to preserve and elongate your competitive advantage is by watching first and gradually bringing all you have to the market in a sequential manner and not throwing out all of it. That can be a strategy.
Thanks, Victor. It definitely can. Of course, there are risks to that as well, which is first, you may lose first mover advantage. But anyway, yeah, it's about understanding your market as well. Oluwaseyi is asking, how does one become innovative in a challenging economy like Nigeria? So back to your VUCA theory. And then also as a writer, speaker, art enthusiast, what are the tips that can help me to be innovative in this country? So it's about innovation, challenging economy. Of course, VUCA, Nigeria is just another part of the VUCA world. And here, this is an art-oriented business. how, tips for innovation in that line.
Okay. Yeah, so VUCA environment means that we have the greatest opportunity to innovate, okay? Innovate is about leading the future, solving the problems at hand in the future. So I think in this environment, we have no choice but to innovate. It's about innovating or dying. I mean, we either innovate or innovate. And we need to innovate in every sector. And I think even as an art person, and let's take an example of where changes and innovation are even the slowest. It's about education. I'm sure before COVID, a lot of people were not putting a lot around these virtual meetings and virtual meetings, virtual sessions, and all those exchanges. And this COVID has, to a large extent, a disruption, a VUCA has brought it to the fore. Also in art, I think one of the benefits, this is me thinking of my field, is today, if I understand the art you mean, you have a gallery or people come in there, they do exhibitions and art shows. You are limited to Lagos. You are limited to the number of people that come physically. Do you know that most times, what people celebrate the most, I was sharing with a few of my colleagues the other time, is, especially when you look at international market, are things that are original and peculiar to you. People are doing virtual bids and virtual art shows and all that. And I think it opens you up even to a bigger market, earning foreign currency than what you do in Lagos, and you have a few people who come in there, look at it, and be pricing you in naira. Now you are putting out your exhibition, you have an art gallery, and whatever it is, and people can bid for your work. And there are so many ways. Without the internet and all that, you see people now do their art, post it, and people retweet on Twitter, leveraging also a technology, and it gets to the person, and people are getting adopted. People are paying for $10,000. Who will pay for that art? Painting my face here in Lagos, for example. That's just an example. So I think it's about looking at your business model. How do I currently make my art available to people? How can I make it to people that are non-consumers now? If you think through the process of ideating, creating a process, your virtual, I was on a virtual book launch, and the person raised a lot of money. Do you know the beauty of it? You didn't have to take a hall, you didn't have to decorate, no screens, no traffic, no logistics. On the virtual book launch, the person still raised all the money to pay for the books, finish publication and all that. If you had told us a year ago that people could raise money from a virtual book launch and people were reading, nobody would have believed that. So I do not think it's impossible. It's about how we think. And I think one other thing that I think will help us in innovation, which is very habitual to us as Africans, is that we think a bit more short term when other people who do a lot of innovation think long term. Think, in the next 20, 30 years, you might not really be, I don't think you'll be dead. For quite a number of people around this call, I think average age might be 30, 40 years. At 70, the present presidential aspirants of US are both in going to their mid-70s. So question is, in the next 30 years, how do you think you want to sell your art? Begin to invest in a process that bridges that market. And the longer you think down the line, the better you get at creating something that is sustainable and can be quite innovative. There's opportunity there.
There's opportunity there. Opportunity gaps, once again. Okay, so I just unmuted Lucas again. No, all right. How can you, Coach Dimeji, how can you bypass competition and turn your competitors to partners or clients?
The best way to do that is to create industry or category disruption. Quite a number of people try to limit disruption to just, to a large extent, what they want to offer. They're thinking from a narrow just myself alone. But when you look at the whole category and you are thinking about, let's take an example. Look at the way we currently have housing. We have huge housing deficit. And you create a particular way in which houses are built in this part of the world in a technical manner and all that. You find that if it creates for you a strong competitive edge, all your competitors, to a large extent, begin to move in that direction, and you define what the standard will be. I'll use an example of a product, okay? Might not be the best, but it helps you. We look at what the producers of Indomie, I'm trying to remember their name, what they're done around driving convenience. As also, I was working with a few people yesterday and we're arguing what created that upsurge in consumption of noodles. Combination of two things. Socioeconomic status, people were getting poorer, they wanted convenience, and also people were looking for easier meals that were cheaper to be able to have a meal, okay? And it helped that industry. However, because of the way they moved, they defined their category around snacking and around on-the-go convenience consumption of meals. And they defined what the category was. Every other person that was in that food business was trying to imitate or catch up as they saw that the category had been disrupted. So it's you thinking a bit more broad, beyond my product, to say the way this industry where I play, how can we totally disrupt it? And that's what you're saying in fintech. What we say in fintech is about category disruption. And I think in another session, it might be easier for us to do proper ideation, idea dump, follow the process, and you can disrupt the category.
But you know, Victor, one of the other things that is really required when it comes to disruption, and you gave a good example of Indomie, there is the value of perseverance. Yes. Because for many years after that category was launched, because it was so new to Nigerians, there was clearly, that curve that needed to happen. And they persevered over that time. You know, there's this story about, the Kodak story, and many people, when the Kodak story is a failure story in the journey of any business, in the case notes of any business school. So this is a company that is over 100 years old, it's about 140 years old, and it was always about film and buy your film, develop it, print it, and that is photography. Then digital cameras came. Incidentally, they say they were the first ones to actually invent digital cameras, but they kept it because they didn't want to disrupt themselves. They didn't want to disrupt their business of film and printing. Sony and the other guys came with their own digital cameras and totally rendered Kodak obsolete. By 2012, these guys filed for bankruptcy. The company was practically dead and gone. They were going into chemicals and this and that. Victor, let me tell you, last month, July 2020, US government loaned Kodak $765 million US. Wow. To do what? To produce medicines for COVID-19.
Wow.
So they are going to produce the generics to reduce significantly the reliance of the US on India. So Kodak, the US company, is now has gone into pharma.
Yeah.
Right? That's a complete transformation. Talk about pivoting. Yeah. Right? Then, the other story on the table is about their shares. In one day, the shares grew by over 500%. So in that whole story of Kodak alone, there's so many lessons to be learned. Even in the person in Stewart, who asked the previous question of, I have an innovation, can I keep it? Because there's a risk there, and Kodak experienced, that risk. We are really running out of time. There are not a number of hands still raised. Mubaraka, would you still like to ask your question? Please ask it now, because I've asked you to unmute. Mubaraka, can you accept? All right. Please ask.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, I was going to ask if you're re-strategizing, like if you want to re-strategize for your business, if it requires you to rebrand, how do you go about it? Like, what are the steps to rebranding?
Okay, so rebranding is not innovating. Okay, Mubaraka, rebranding is a performance gap that you're addressing, not an opportunity gap. And so yes, rebranding is good. It can help you get more customers. It can make you get, stronger in the face of your customer. It can give you a temporal competitive edge. But branding, I hope the team driving tech biz will come up with branding someday and brand management. Branding itself is a different conversation. Where is your brand and where the essence of your brand, and where do you want to move your brand to, and what will be the essence? That's a different and a separate journey, which I think I think is quite valid, especially when you want to make sure that the performance engine I have today is performing optimally and I'm delivering value. It's performing optimally and I'm making money, keeping my customers, so that I can be able to have time to look at the the non-linear, create the non-linear innovations, or look at the weak signals that I can take, okay? So branding itself and it's a different conversation. It's not about innovation. It's not a business model improvement. And therefore, we will not classify it as innovation. It's under the capabilities that you have in your operational capabilities that you should have. But when you change the way people consume products, okay, when you change the way people consume products, use your products, and then you are to a large extent creating a new business model, which and it's when you create that kind of new business model that you are actually creating what we call an innovation or creating a disruption. And it's basically around a business model, and business model is how consumers are buying me, how they are paying for my services, how I'm making my funds, how I'm creating cash flow and all that. That's what we mean by business model innovation.
Right. So we're going to take 2 more questions, right, before we wrap up. Obi Osuji.
Hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Obi, yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I was going to ask, on a scale of 1 to 100, where would you really place imitability? Because I asked this, I doubt there's any kind of model come up that people wouldn't be able to copy. And so, looking at your video, I was of the mind that I'd rather want to concentrate more on the kind of value proposition I'm giving to my customers or clients, and how I'm delivering those that value, as well as how my product is. Talking about imitability, for me, I don't think it is really that important per se, because, like I said, there is hardly any kind of concept or idea or product you bring to the market that it wouldn't take a very sharp competitor to copy and begin to deliver. So if it's not Panadol, it can be the same thing as Panadol as far as I'm concerned. That's my question.
Well, thank you very much. And I'll talk about a case study around this when we move on, okay? It will take me to another framework, and I'll talk about that framework. Now, if you look at how we scaled it, I started it from valuable. If you don't even have a valuable offering, you are not even discussing innovation, so don't bother, okay? You are already competitively disadvantaged, so you are not in the game. You are not even in the game. So yes, I follow your journey, and I'll go to where you talk about imitation and how you lock imitation. Okay, so you are not in the game when you have something valuable you want to communicate. The next part is it rare? Rare means that, oh, it's a new thing. Oh, I'll have switch. Oh, there are some people that are not consuming me that will begin to consume me. Oh, I can recruit more people to use the product. Oh, I mean, let's take a clear-cut example. I mean, I'm not sure if it was invented here or invented somewhere else. The fact that, before the, I think I currently use an iPhone that has 2 SIMs. But when you go back to how the 2 SIMs came, I'm sure people like Nigeria are the first to start. At the time, people had 3 or 4 phone numbers because almost all the lines, depending on where you live in Lagos, will determine which network is going to work. Okay, and irrespective of who came up with it, whether Nigeria or Southeast Asia, they come up with the 2 same thing that made life easy. It did not take long for, okay, today iPhone has a dual SIM, same case. So yes, the fact is that what you are bringing to the table, is it bringing any value at all? If it's not bringing any value, don't bother. Is it rare? Oh, 2 SIMs in a phone? I mean, I grew up in the generation where you used to dial 09, 09 not was the Turaya one, and then you dial this ring, and you could tap and all that, the P&C one. So yes, I mean, bringing those 2 phones after all of us that used the Nokia was something that was rare. And that gives you competitive equality and parity. It was rare, it means that somebody else can join. Somebody else can copy you with time. They can even poach from you, okay? So let's go back to where you raised your question from, and I'll answer that with another framework. Sorry, I hope I'm not overrunning your time, but this framework is important.
Go ahead.
Now, for you to get into creating something imitable, it will tie into how you are organized. And it will take me to another concept, which is called the POCD concept. The P standing for your people, the O standing for your opportunity, the C standing for your context, and your D standing for the deals, helps you to create an opportunity that gives you competitive advantage that is prolonged and therefore lengthens how long people can imitate you. Let's understand what POCD is about. It's about the people, the opportunity, the context, and the deal. Put all that together, let's use the only unicorn that's emerged from Nigeria, InterSwitch. How come InterSwitch for 20-25 years, we've not been able to create a stronger switch? I mean, apart from eTransact, who's been around, but I'm sure many of you might not have known, I've given them free advert. But InterSwitch has done quite a lot of switching among all financial institutions. Not because somebody else can't create a switch, but they moved from people. They saw the opportunity to create the switch, which accelerated all these, your interbank, I can take money, standard to another, you're taking from bank and ATMs. They got to the context and the deals. The deals with all the players around the table can lock out other people. If you do not use that context and deal to write the right people around the table, have the right talent around the table, they have the ability to access the right opportunity, you will not have your competitive advantage for too long. But if you are able to have those four locked, you will prolong how long your competitive advantage can come. Question, McDonald's, going out of Nigeria. I didn't know that can do burger. Dodger does fine burger. I'm very sure of that. You know? So, but the question is, can she turn over the numbers of McDonald's today? There's something they have created that has made their model difficult to imitate. So imitation is not that there's no genius somewhere that can write the same program. It's the fact that putting together all the frameworks and the structure and organizing your POCD in such a way that it makes it a lot more difficult for others to mimic it without running into debt, or there's somebody that is on the table that they don't have with that particular expertise or competence or network are the things we talk about when we talk about POCD. So yes, everything under the earth ultimately will be copied, will be imitated. But for you to have an innovation that stays for a long term, it means that you need to organize in a proper way. Remember that even all these that we're talking about, the laptop and all that were innovation. Because when I was growing up, no laptop, no cell phone. BlackBerry came with pinging. Pinging has remained, but now you was. So all those innovations came along the line. They did not preserve it with the right POCD and Vero model. And yes, it won't last for so long. So it's not about it's totally impossible. It's about how long you can continue to milk it and grow a valuable business by delaying imitability.
Victor, if I don't ask this question, Chijioke is going to have my head for dinner because he's asked the question 3 different times. Is it possible to be innovative in the corporate business? Now, Chijioke, I wish you had just said what kind of business is it so that we understand it better. But anyway, is it possible to be innovative in the corporate business?
Yeah, and I think somebody asked a similar question saying that must you be an entrepreneur, okay, for you to be able to innovate? And I think, absolutely not. The challenge, and I think we've seen organizations survive, by being innovative. Let me use one that is also very local. When the payphone call and everything landed, okay, and people were saying you made calls, we used to time it. How many seconds? It's as past 1 minute. I'll now wait to 59 seconds again. It was per minute billing. It's a business model. When you began to move into a new business model where they were going by the second billing and all that, a few non-consumers came because it was that allowed people to even now be able to buy smaller units of credit. Non-consumers became consumers and all that. Innovation was happening in that space. It was 1,500 and 750 only. Today, people are doing 50. They are borrowing credit. They are paying money through it. You could pay for funds through credit. A lot of innovation has happened in the fintech and the telco space. More is happening, driven by in-house corporate innovators. Understand the concept of innovation, business model change, bringing non-consumers to consume. So at a time that they brought, the telcos, wheelbarrow pushers could not have. People to get data was a big deal. The person that will disrupt the current pay-per-view TV will be the person. I was still saying with my wife this morning, talking about, and we're doing a comparison between Netflix and, this DSTV that we do annual something and all that. And I said, I'm waiting for the person that will allow us pay per channel or pay TV, and I think it's going to be a disruption. Why? I'll have only 3 channels. CNBC Africa, Bloomberg, and CNN. Those are the only 3 channels you see anywhere I find myself, any office and any. Question is, when I do that, and it's a bouquet practice, you've disrupted a business model, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's not totally, it has to be something that, totally out of the corporate setting. Sorry, I stumbled a bit, but it's you creating a new business logic, dominant logic, business model to bring your non-consumers as consumers. That's how we innovate. I hope I helped a bit.
Perfect. I like that example of pay TV. I wanted to add that you will have to have Cartoon Network and you will have to have Disney.
Depending on the consumer.
For the other consumers at home, you will have to have all of those as well. Okay. Now, there's still quite a number of questions. In fact, also very good comments as well, Victor. I really need to say thank you. But Stewart said, Mr. Victor, you are good, too good. Georgia, where have you kept him all the while? Stewart joins us every single week. He's one of the biggest champions of TechBiz. And for everyone asking about the recording and also asking about the presentation, go to ECOI Center /webinar. You will find all the webinars, including this one as well, uploaded. This one will be uploaded maximum by tomorrow morning, and you would have it there as well. Many nuggets actually to take here. Non-linear innovation. It's not just about incremental innovation. I move it from 5 ml to 10 ml. I move it from this to that. Those are incremental changes that, yes, maybe they may be good for today, but they do not protect you from being disrupted. And we know that it's a VUCA world, which means disruption will come. How do we sustain our businesses when those disruption comes? It's by being ahead. It's by thinking about how you can make non-consumers consumers. It's about looking at new technologies and seeing how that can be leveraged to bring value to the consumer. Victor, you talked about POCD. In fact, it was just like a light bulb. Boom, POCD, the people, the opportunities, the context, and the deals. The deals, the kind of partnerships. Here in Nigeria, as an entrepreneur, you just want to do everything by yourself, you want to be it all and do the beginning and the end, forgetting that the value of partnerships, the value of deals definitely can take you much further. I can go on and on about everything you've said. Thank you so much. This is indeed valuable, and different people have been actually thanking you for everything that you have said. We're deploying a poll very quickly. Please answer the poll. Victor, this is your
assessment.
Your performance review. Okay, Kaisala, please deploy the poll so that we really want to have your feedback. We want to hear from you because you are the customers of TechBiz. We want to hear from you to make sure that we're not going to be disrupted. So we make our incremental changes to make today worth it for you, but also the future. We're working on the future as well, taking learnings from everything that Victor has said. All right, you're asking about the link. I'm going to type it in again. I've said ECOI Center. .com/. Okay, I think we all got the meat. I think that's the most important thing. We got the meat, we got all the nuggets. Please, the presentation is there for you to download. The video also is there for you to download. The most critical thing, guys, is action. Action, action, action. We have learned a lot today. We continue to learn a lot every single Friday. Next week, Friday, we'll be here again at 5 p.m. The difference will come in when you take action. And that is where really success comes from. And I can only encourage you, please use those learnings that you are taking, use those nuggets to transform your business. Also, even if you are in paid employment, this is the time to be an intrapreneur. Bring those innovations into your job, into the business model of your workplace, and even into your own role. And of course, success is what we all anticipate. And next week, Thursday, we're back again. The poll asked you to specify the next subject you would like to hear. We always use that to seek for the right speakers who are able to share their own personal experience. And that always helps because those stories not only motivate you, but help you also to see the authenticity of what you are learning. Thank you so much. I want to thank Koinsola. She's not on the line, but I'm thanking her, and I'm also thanking Bola Tito for the work that they do on the back end to make sure that everything works smoothly, and you, of course, can have the best of sessions that you desire. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Again, please stay safe. It is important. It is for our own good. We continue to be safe, and next week is another date. Have a lovely evening, and bye-bye.